Hi everyone, it's Christina from Card Creations and More by C, and I'm back today with another video for you and another sneak peek of the Scrappy Moms Stamps Kids Incorporated. And today we're going to be making a card that something that I kind of came up with on my own, so I apologize in advance if somebody else on the net has made a card similar to this, but I do consider this to be my own original idea because I didn't get it from anybody. I actually started making cards similar to this about a year and a half ago or so, but I usually made them bigger, and it was a little bit more difficult because of making them bigger. I had to use more sheets of paper and connect it, which made my center, we're going to be making a Z-fold card, so my center layer was twice as thick and it made it harder to work with. So I've come up with some new dimensions for my card. So it's actually a 4 by 5.5 card, and this way the card base can be 12 by 5.5, and I'm going to show you how to make this. But it's a very very cute card. This here, we're going to be making one similar to this. I had to make sure that all of my ideas worked for resizing at first. So this one is called a Z-fold window card. That's what I'm calling it. So when you open it up, it has a nice little window. Hopefully you can see it good. Folds like that. So I kept the front very simple. I used 2 different pattern papers on this one here, and I just did a little ribbon with the sentiment, which comes from Kids Incorporated, which, as you can see, doesn't have to be kid related. It says, "You've got a friend in me." And then when I opened it up, we have our window section with this cute little flower here, and then here we have the section where you would write your note. And like a year and a half ago when I used to make these cards, like I said, they were more like 7 inches tall, 5 by 7 on each panel. And I used to do the whole back side, so the whole thing lined up. So if I had a flower on the front, I had a flower on the back in the same spot. I had the same pattern papers and everything. So, but the thing of it is, that takes a really long time to make, so it's not practical for me with my little card business. And really, if you're going to put this on display, you're not looking at the back of it anyways. So I've decided just to forego decorating the back side and stick with the front. So that's what we're going to be making today, is another card with this design and the same sentiment but different paper. So to get started, you're going to need a 12-inch by 5.5-inch piece of paper, which is going to be our card base. And you want to use your scoreboard or whatever you have for scoring, and you're going to score it at 4 inches and then 8 inches. And you do want your 12-inch length going across. So once you're done with that, then you just want to take this panel and come this way, and just use your bone folder to make a nice tight crease. And then you want to bring this one the other way, and you're basically just making that Z-fold shape. Okay, so now we have our Z-fold, and that's going to be our card base. So each panel is basically 4 by 5.5, except for when you're adhering down to the center panel, you want to just cut a little tiny bit off of the 4-inch side so that it doesn't get hung up in the creases. Okay, so what we're going to do next is figure out where we want our papers. I think we're going to work on the middle panel first, and I think that's going to be with this pattern, this really pretty light patterned paper. So we're going to move these papers out of the way. Well, actually I got to trim it first. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to trim it just a tiny little smidgen less than 4 inches. So this way it doesn't get held up in the crease. And then I'm actually going to cut it at 5 3/4. This way I know that I get it not too short. I know that I'm going to be able to trim it off the top and have it perfect at the height. So what you want to do is on your middle section, take your ATG. You want to do all 4 sides to get lots of adhesive. And then you also want to do some little ones like this. Okay, like that. So then I'm just going to start, and when you're lining this up, you always want to make sure you don't put anything directly on your crease, because that's what will end up making it catch. So with the best of your ability, you just want to try to have it inside the two creases. Now we're just going to flip this over and trim that off. Still getting used to trimming edges with these ionic scissors. They cut wonderfully. They're probably the best pair of scissors I've ever owned in my life. But I was so used to using my cutter bee scissors for doing edges. Okay, so now we have a pretty pattern paper. I hope you can see that pattern paper. It's really light pink flowery design. So now what I like to do is on my craft mat, I like to line this up between 4 inches and 1/4 on each one. So this way I have it centered on my grids. And then I'm going to take my Creative Memories oval template. This is the largest oval. We're going to be working with the inner track. Now, you could do this with your Cricut if you had your rectangle and you lined it perfectly on your mat. Let's say if you had a Gypsy or Design Studio, or you could make the rectangle and weld an oval into it and then make your ring a little differently. It would be a little bit harder, or maybe not harder, but more time consuming. But I do have the oval templates, and I think any scrapbooker or card maker should really invest in the oval templates and the circle templates, along with the 3 blades. You can use any craft mat, so you don't even have to buy their mat if you don't want to. But these are awesome. So, and I've had mine for like 9 years or something like that. I mean, I've never even had to replace them. They don't break or anything. So they're well worth the investment, and they're not really that expensive. I mean, I've probably paid for them 10 times over with the amount that I've used them. So what I'm going to do, to the best I can, is center this oval perfectly. And I think you probably all know by now I'm kind of a perfectionist, so I'm going to try to get it right in the middle. And I think that's looking pretty good. Okay, so, and this is strong enough to cut through 2 layers of cardstock. So what I'm going to do is use my green blade. I don't know if you know the whole thing. There's a green, red, and blue blade. And when you're working with one template, there's an inner and an outer track. So I don't know if you can see this, but the red blade cuts closest to the track. The green cuts in the middle, and the blue cuts the furthest away. So what I want to do with this is cut my oval out of the card itself with the green blade on the inner track of this largest oval. So that's what I'm going to do. I want to hold my template nice and sturdy and start working my way around with nice firm pressure. And you don't want to move the template at all, or that will goof up your cut. So I'm just going to keep working it around. Okay, and I can already tell that it lifted it, so we should be good to go. Okay. Alright, I'm just going to get rid of that. So, and I put a little extra adhesive around there, so we shouldn't have to worry about it. Yep, it's nice and tight. That's why we did those extra few little ones right there. So now we have our little window cut out, and that looks pretty good. And then what I want to do, I think we're going to do brown. I cut a 1/2 inch strip of paper. I think it was 1/2 inch. Yep. I did this next. What I did on the other one was I cut a 1/2 inch strip of paper, put a little ATG right on the 2 line mark on the top and bottom of the oval, and then I lined this up into the center of it. And this is where we're going to attach our flower, because you have to have something to attach it to. And it just gives it a little bit more decoration. So I chose these pinks, white, and brown to go together. And then we're going to be making our little ring. Hopefully you remembered with the other card, we have the little ring around it. So we're going to be using our same oval template, and we're just going to put it close to the edge of the paper because we don't want to waste too much. And we're going to start with the green blade, just like we did with the window for the card, and just go around. This is just one layer of paper, but you have to be very careful that you don't move the template at all. Then, without moving anything, you want to take your red blade and put it in the track and go around. And this is going to give the very thin oval ring that we need. Let's see. And that one did not work out perfectly. I felt my hand move there at the end. Okay, we're going to just make another one. I'm a little bit rusty on this, but I did feel my hand slipped. I think my fingers are a little bit slippery. So I'm just going to start over. Usually I don't goof these up. I swear in every video I've got to have a goof up. So, I mean, it's not, I would tell you, once you become accustomed to working with these, you're not going to have a lot of mistakes. They're very easy tools to use. Okay, so there we have our little tiny oval ring. And we'll set that aside and glue this in place. And for this, I'm going to be using my little tiny glue bottle from Quilt Creations. It has Elmer's Craft Fun glue. And rather than trying to put the glue on that, I just find it easier to put little dots of it going right around my actual oval on the card base. And you want to just make sure you stay very close to the edge, because as you can see, that oval is not very thick. So it's going to be right there. And that's a really good sturdy glue. I think it's stronger than the Zig 2-way when you're working with stuff like this. Then I'm just going to start putting it in place. And you just want to line it up. I mean, it's the same size as the opening. So you just want to line it right up on the edge of the opening and let it overlap just that little bit. Perfect. Just press it down a few times and you're good to go. So there we have our window. So that's all started. Now we're going to work on the front. And what I want to do is, we'll do this one just slightly differently, I think. I'm going to be using, this is Coordinations. I don't know what color it is, but it's a nice light pinkish rose color that matches that. So what we're going to do is cut 4 inches. And again, I'm going to cut it at 5.75 because I do want it to be a perfect fit. What did I do? 4.75. Good Lord. I am glad that it's Friday. I think my brain has worked from the week of work. Okay, there we go. I'm going to put that there. And then I think we're going to have a little piece of pattern paper. And trying to think. I think we'll center this one. Maybe. Can't decide. No. Okay. I think we're gonna go 2 1/4 inch. And that one there. Okay. Alright, I'm gonna try just cutting that at 5 1/2 and hoping that it's right. Okay, very close. So what I'm going to do is adhere this down up here along the top. like so. Okay, and we're going to just cut off our edge. It's just easier to cut a little bit bigger than you need. Okay, and then I want to take a brown piece. I did this about 1 1/4 of an inch. And we're going to use the scallop border punch by Fiskars. So we'll go ahead and get that going. And hopefully you all know how to use a border punch. I think almost everybody has one. I like the scallop one. It's pretty easy to use and it's very easy to line up. Usually don't have much trouble cutting with it. Okay, so that's going to be plenty big enough. And I'm just going to cut this part a little bit to size. Okay. Now on the other card, I put the scallop upward, so I think I'll do that again. And I'm thinking we want to go right about there. So I'm just going to put a little strip of ATG right across the seam here. And then we're going to, I find it easier to line things up straight when it's straight on my grid here. So I'm going to line it up like so. Okay, that looks good. Looks straight. I'm just going to trim off the edges and then we're going to put our ribbon on. And I'm working with a white satiny ribbon. And what I want to do is put ATG right in the center, and then I want to skip and put just a little dab at the edge because my bow is going to be over here. So what I'm going to do is lay this across. Just nice and simple. Okay, so this is how I do it, and I'm just going to tape it down in the back. I don't like when the ribbon looks like it's lifted. I like it to be pretty secure. So that's why I put ATG, and it also helps me make sure that it's nice and straight. And I'm just putting tape behind. Okay. And then we can just kind of lift and slide this underneath. And I think we'll wait until it's, actually we'll wait till it's on the card. So, I apologize for coughing. I don't know what's going on. Okay, we're just going to put ATG along the back side of this. Let's do a couple little strips there because it's kind of heavy. And then we're just going to I'm going to line it up perfectly along the top. And then if I was just a little bit too long, it's going to be trimmed off at the bottom because that's where I had more. Yeah, there's just a little tiny bit. So trim that off. I mean, very thin. Okay. So there's the start of our front of our card. And we can go ahead and do our bow now that it's tied down nicely. And I'm just going to go ahead and tie a knot. It's actually not a bow, but a knot. There, that's a nice tight one. It's definitely easier than the ridged ribbon. Just keeping it straight. And we'll go ahead and burn our edges to make sure that it doesn't fray on us. Okay. And this side. Okay. Alrighty. So that part's done. And that looks really cute. I really like that ribbon. It's very pretty. I love these colors together. Okay, now we just have to decide what we want on the inside. I think I'm actually going to do a brown layer here and then work with some color. I think that might be really cute. So what I'm going to do, instead of cutting it, I'm just going to go ahead and put my adhesive right here on the card. I'm not leaving like a white border at all, so I can just tape the adhesive right here, a little dab there, and then I'm just going to go ahead and put my cardstock directly onto my card. And you just want to make sure, like I said, put it just on the other side of the crease so you don't end up in trouble when you're folding it. Press it down, and then we're just going to trim this off. This way it's a perfect fit. You're not really wasting any paper anyway, and you don't have to worry that you cut it just a tiny bit too small, and it'll fit perfectly. Okay, so there's our layer there, and then what I want to do, I think I'm going to go 3 3/4 to put a layer of this light colored paper. So I'm going to go ahead and just put some strips of adhesive like so. Okay, and then I'm just going to put something like that. That looks good. I like this little texture that the Coordinations paper has too. It's really, really pretty. Trim that off, and then one other touch, we want to do the same thing with a piece of white paper, and I'm going to go at 3.5 inches. So of course you see me trimming this to size, so it's all 5.5 inches height wise. Another 3 strips of adhesive. And this makes for a really nice, thick, durable card. Very pretty and very unique. And a little something extra, when you look at the front of the card, you're not necessarily expecting to have this cute little window on the inside. So it's got a little surprise to it. And we'll trim this piece off, and we're almost done. This really isn't that hard to make. Okay, so there's our whole card base. Now we just need to decorate it. So what we're going to be doing is our sentiment. And I want to stamp that on white paper, and we're going to be using Brown Stays On ink, Timber Brown, and it's the You've Got a Friend in Me. So I want to go ahead and get that really well inked. It's got a nice big bold friend, so I want to make sure that I really get it. And I'm going to kind of come down at this end of the paper. Again, I find it easier to line up my paper on my grid here first. Okay, not quite happy with that. For some reason, I've said in other videos, my Timber Brown ink is a little bit tricky. Now I got too much. Okay, I promise it's not the Scrappy Moms Stamps, it's the user. Okay. For some reason, I don't have trouble with any other Stays On colors but the Timber Brown. I don't know why. I even threw away my ink pad one time and bought a new one. A new Timber Brown, thinking that it was the ink pad, but I'm thinking that it's just that color. Okay, so we've got that now. And I'm going to go ahead and trim it up. And then we're going to mount it onto some brown paper. That should look really good. Put my brown right here. Got a little ATG there. Actually, I'll go over here. Just to give it a little bit of a matte. Make it pop out a little bit more when we put it on the card. Perfect. And okay. And I just noticed that my sentiment smeared a little bit, so just have to do it again quick. I'm really sorry about this. I don't usually have any problem with Stays On smearing on me either. What the heck is going on? Let's give that a try. liking this ink. Does anybody else know of a really good brown ink? I see Sarah from Live, Love, and Scrap. That's perfect. Okay. She uses Timber Brown a lot too, and I don't ever know of hers. But she usually stamps off camera. Maybe I should have had my sentiment ready to go. I apologize. Okay, try to not smudge this one. Now let's see if I can make this fit right over top of this or not. Be nice if we don't have to cut. Yeah, that will work. Awesome. I'm going to put adhesive there so we're not flipping this over. And I'm just going to line this up in the center of the mat that I already have, right over top of the other one. So see, it's not too hard to fix something if you don't like it. You can just go right over top of it. And I'm just going to kind of press this down around the sentiment and try to not smear it. And I'm just going to put a little strip of adhesive right there on my card to stick this down to. And we just want this up here centered in the over top of the bow, well, the knot, the ribbon. Okay. Oops, going a little bit crooked. Alright, I'll be able to press that in a little bit better in a little while. So that's going to be the front of our card. It says, "You've got a friend in me." It's really sweet colors. I love that. Okay, then we open it up. I'm going to be leaving that part blank. And now I already went ahead and put together my flower. I use this Paper Shapers EK Success punch. Well worth it. And a little Fisker circle punch. And then I run all of my flowers. I cut 2 with the darker pink here and 1 with the white, and I ran them all through here, glued them down, and put the circle in the center. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and use some zip dry. I'm actually going to put it on this strip, just enough to glue the flower to the strip without getting it all over the place. So I don't use zip dry a whole lot, but I found that it kind of adheres pretty quickly for the flower. So we're going to go ahead and adhere that down and press it in. I don't think it spreads too much either, so it's not spreading much behind the flower, which is the nice part. Zip dry is also nice because if you get extra where you don't want it, it just kind of like rolls right off. So I'm just going to press that in, and I'm going to let it dry for a little while. And then we're going to go ahead and put a nice little pink pearl, and it's pretty much a perfect match to that paper. And I got these at AC Moore. I'm going to go ahead and put one in the center. And I think for this card, I might put one up there. I didn't do that on the other one because I used a brad on that one. I'm going to put one right there, and then I'm going to put a smaller one right there, just to give it a little bit more decoration, a little bit more embellishment. Okay, so there's that, and I was thinking about putting, I could put 3 little ones right over here on this ribbon on the front to kind of tie it in. Let's see how that would look. Might be kind of pretty. Oops. Get over here, you. I use my little Quilled Creations tweezers because they have a really fine point. It helps me line them up well. Okay, that looks good. A little something. Okay, so see over here on the side of the ribbon I put 3 pearls. And then when you open it up, you have your flower, and I put some pearls right there, and then you have your blank spot to write your note. And how pretty that is. I really, really love how it turned out. I love the other one too. I don't make the same card twice typically, not exactly the same, so that's why I had to use different colors. But anyways, I hope you enjoyed the tutorial, and hopefully if you don't have the Creative Memories cutting system, you'll purchase some of it because I think it's well worth it. And if you don't, you can use this same tutorial and hopefully line it up on your Cricut if you don't have these tools. But I hope you enjoy it, and stay tuned for some more sneak peeks. Thanks for watching.